Let's begin with some biblical wisdom. King Solomon, the wisest man to ever live, was faced with a dilemma. Two women claimed to be the mother of an infant child. There was no DNA test back then. So in this ancient version of the Maury show, King Solomon said, how about this? I'll cut up the baby and you can each have half. And one woman said, please do that. And the other woman said, no matter what you do, don't do that. Just let her have the child. At least the child will be safe. And Solomon knew exactly who the mom was in that moment. The illustration there sort of shows us that it is the true owners, the true desires of peace, of protection of life that are going to want to keep things together. They're going to want to stop the innocent slaughter, and they'll do anything to stop it. And that is precisely what is happening right now in the Ukraine war. There's one side that's saying, hey, let's end the killing. And then there's two sides of that war that are not wanting to do that. Let's go ahead and look at who's saying what, and it'll show you who wants to split the baby, as it were. So this past weekend, the Kremlin said something remarkable. Vladimir Putin, speaking, said, it's time for us to end the war in Ukraine. You never heard him say this before. Talking to the press, he was at the Kremlin, and he said, it's time for this to be over. President Trump has negotiated a ceasefire, and Putin's like, yep, we're winding this war down right now. I'm sure you speak Russian. I'm sure you could totally understand all of that. Maybe you could translate it for me. What he said is the conflict in Ukraine is at an end. President Trump actually just seconds ago said the Ukraine-Russia war will be over very, very soon. President Trump on the Ukraine-Russia war, we will do whatever is necessary. That war is getting closer, and we think we are going to end up getting a settlement between Russia and Ukraine.
End up getting a settlement between. Do you think it might happen this year? It could. I mean, what I will do whatever is necessary. That war, I've settled 8 wars. That war is getting closer. Believe it or not, it's getting closer. And we think we're going to end up getting a settlement between Russia and Ukraine.
So what a messy shot, but that's the best that we have, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes those things just go helter-skelter. So Putin saying, let's end the war. Trump saying, let's end the war, and he's been saying that for a long time. Trump met with Putin in order to do that. Trump's obviously met with Zelensky and smacked him around like a little stepchild at the White House. Now the Kremlin is saying that it's time for the Ukraine war to end. And Zelensky says, no. Zelensky is saying, no, please. I want it to continue for as long as possible. You know. Ladies and gentlemen, Zelensky's been lying, and Marco Rubio just called him a liar. Marco Rubio called Zelensky out as a liar about the terms to end the war. Marco Rubio, of course, in the driver's seat, but he's saying that Volodymyr Zelensky is a liar. He knows what he's telling you is not true. It's just not true. So here we go.
What is this? The U.S. tells Zelensky that
Zelensky says security guarantees depend on withdrawing from the Donbass.
And I saw him say that, and it's unfortunate he would say that because he knows that's not true, and that's not what he was told. What he was told is the obvious. Security guarantees are not going to kick in until there's an end to a war, because otherwise you're getting yourself involved in the war. Okay, what is a security guarantee? It is troops that are willing to step in and secure. If you put that in place now, that means you're injecting yourself in the war. What he was told very clearly, and he should have understood it, is that the security guarantees come only after there is an end to the war. But that was not attached to unless he gives up territory. I don't know why he says these things. They're just not true.
He sounds pissed. Marco Rubio sounds pissed. I don't know why he says these things. They're just not true. Well, the reason why he says these things is obviously because he's a rat. Zelensky's a dirty, rotten rat. And he's a rat who knows exactly why he's eating a rat. The eating of the cheese, Parmesan cheese in the case of Zelensky, if you know what I mean, is, you can see right here. Isn't that the shot? He's sitting here saying that America gives Ukraine hundreds of billions of dollars, but I can't even account for half of it in this interview. So he says, that's $100 billion. But they've given us $200 billion, and we don't know where the rest of it went.
177 або 200, говорять навіть деякі люди, ми ніколи не отримували. І це важливо.
Oh, okay, got it. I wonder why he doesn't want the war to end, but maybe this is how we end it. Tulsi Gabbard confirmed she's investigating more than 120 U.S.-funded biolabs. 40 of them are in Ukraine. It appears that Trump and the administration are securing rogue biological and nuclear threats worldwide, and it is happening. We have long thought that what's going to end up happening is the trap, the pressure trap that comes from a lot of different sides on this stuff. And that's what Iran was all about. And that Iran was a geopolitical play against Ukraine and against China, against Russia and China. They love Iran, those nations, and they're sort of a rogue set of nations. And in order to wind down the actual war in Ukraine, that President Trump was going to apply pressure to Iran. That pressure was going to influence China. China, of course, is playing in both regions. The more you squeeze and create a Thucydides trap, tink, right in the middle of all of that region, clink. If you can start cutting all of the oil lines in Russia, destroying them, and that's what they're doing. That's Russia's really only export. Then you can cut off Iran. You can cut off that oil export. China has no oil. China gets no oil. They have no fuel capacity to build compute. Why do you think China's building so many wind farms and solar farms? Like madmen, they're building this style of energy because they have no oil themselves, and they know that they're getting cut off from the world's oil supply one day after another, and it's just going to collapse that nation. Without energy, China just goes right back to where their stasis is, which is a third world hellhole. And so China doesn't want to do that. And so President Trump is headed to China right now. He has sort of a trap set up, and they could wrap up. Donald Trump knows he could wrap up and be the world's warlord with all of the energy for the AI compute funneled through his new conquest of Iran, which is now under American stewardship and control, right? And being the Strait of Hormuz and the blockade. And then Venezuela, which is now a vassal state of America. Those were the oil selling countries to China. He's cut off China. And then, of course, he's ended the Ukraine war, which will skyrocket the economy, bring stability to Eastern Europe, and then also to the Persian Gulf. And that, of course, will create such a booming roar for American dollars and American assets that'll be certainly a golden age. And that seems like it's the play. Are they going to apply hard pressure to Zelensky in order to shut this rat down? Yeah, of course. They've already started to mass arrest some of his top commanders and the people in charge. I think they just want him to stay there as a figurehead for stability, to shut up, do the line, and sign on the line. You know what I mean? And so that's what this is going to be. Tulsi Gabbard is going to be now applying pressure. Director of National Intelligence says she's investigating 120 biological laboratories abroad that were funded by U.S. taxpayer dollars for the decade as part of an effort to potentially risky experiments with viruses pursuant to President Trump's executive orders on gain-of-function research. Gabbard told the Post on Monday in a statement that her team has been going to identify where these labs are, what pathogens are contained in the research, and conducting and dangerous gain-of-function research. The COVID experiments have been catastrophic pathogens and biolabs. So I think it's a wonderful thing that she's actually doing this. President Trump here woke up to this. 20 FBI, CIA agents dropped a political nuke on Obama by confirming that Barack Obama and former CIA director fabricated the Russia hoax, were locked away in a CIA vault for nearly a decade, discredited President Trump's election by manipulating intelligence. Tulsi Gabbard, man, I think is like one of the all-timers. I think she's done an amazing job in this current Trump administration. We're big fans of her. And I think this is going to be part of the hard and soft pressure campaign in order to wind down both of these conflicts at the same time. And I actually think that's what the Iran war is all about. And then please put Dr. Fauci in prison when this is all said and done. Okay? Like the video if you want Dr. Fauci in prison, and then let's manifest that. It's your boy Benny. Like, share, and subscribe.